Yeah.
Keyboard module? System module?
No, that's the
Okay. Now, with a little bit luck, it should work, and it's as well trimmed down a little bit, so I can actually do it in 45 minutes. So we are still on time, and you are 5 minutes early than finished. So I really have to work on my timing. I'm not used to this 1 hour format. Yeah, so again, apologies. If I'm still talking 55, just raise the arm and wave at me, that I'm aware of this. Okay, we had already kind of public-public partnerships with alliances and joint venture, and we had as well the PUBs, the public-public partnerships, or the hybrids, where there were kind of third sector charity with public organizations. So today we come to the ultimate. It's a public-private partnership. So this is what we are talking about today. And so here's the question: who is a public and who is a private? First interpretations, just picture-wise, to get us started. Blue or white?
Public's in the middle.
Public is in the middle, yeah. And yeah. So this is a psychology question. But yes, normally it's the middle one, the big brother in the middle. But it shows you that there are already connotations. Is that what you associated?
Yeah.
Okay, wow, okay. There we go. So it does work. Now, agenda today, what is a PPP? What is it?
Public-private partnership.
Yeah, okay, we know the terminology. This is good. Then models available, and I can talk as well a little bit about, so again, in the Major Project Association, our topic this month, no, March, mid of March, I'm traveling down. It's should we collaborate? Private-public partnerships. Can it work? And so if you're interested in this, come along. Yeah, it's for free if you're coming with me. It's a black tie dinner, so it's always fun. So if you're up for it, traveling to London, let me know. Possibilities there. Great networks. Yeah. So hot topic, and especially the model side. We have to define first aspects of it. Then good or bad, this is kind of a polarized debate. So of course it's not as simple as just good or bad. There's a little bit of dynamics, control, and if you are control, if you don't trust your partner too much, then it has implications. Yeah? So that is what we are looking at. A few international and future examples. Here really having focused, this is my pre-successor, Alex was very interested in the Commonwealth. So it's a little bit Commonwealth focused, but nonetheless, you get a trend for the international side. Now, public-private partnership. What is a PPP? If you look at it, oh, this is very badly positioned, my head in front of it, so just read over my face. It's a government service or a private business venture which is funded and operated through a partnership of government and one or more private sector companies. Yeah, so under this definition, you even had the old-fashioned council wants to build a bus cycle path for Robert. Yeah, and this cycle path gets bidded out to one that paints the line on the road, and special traffic. I like my own traffic lights. So I want the traffic lights under the normal traffic lights, yeah, just for the cyclists, so I can see them. Something like that. So even if they contract this out, yeah, that would be considered actually a PPP, yeah, which is interesting. Then a relatively long duration of the relationship involving cooperation within the public, between the public partner and the private partner on different aspects of the planned project. The method of funding the project is using, so in part from the private sector, sometimes by means of complex arrangements between various players. So this is actually ambiguous. You will see later on why. So funding may be actually provided by the private sector, for example, and still the ownership sits with the public because of land rights and things like that. And as well, the important role of economic operator who participates at different stages in the project. So normally in the public sector, design, completion, and implementation, and funding are the hot topics. Yeah, where in the public sector a lot of risk is associated, and we come to that in a little bit. And that is where the private sector can step in. Yeah. And then the distribution of risk between the public partner and private partner, to whom the risks generally borne by the public sector are transferred. Yeah, so you net get already this risk notion that translates from where they get involved. Now, this is really kind of the starting point and comes from the Commission of European Communities, 2004, and we still use that partly in contract as a basis, yeah, so it's quite powerful actually. Now, traditional procurement was said that if you wanted to build infrastructure, a nice school for your pupils, yeah, and your community had just generated so much tax, you would look if you can afford to maybe price it down over 12 years or something. So you would basically raise money from a bank. Sometimes you went to your own national bank or regional bank. Sometimes you went for investment funds to actually raise money by going into debt. Yeah, so you would basically raise the money by getting a credit and then basically pay for the school to be built. So here we have the idea, so this is as well what you could do. Yeah? If you plan to do a project and you don't have the financial means, you can go with your business proposal to the bank and get a credit for it, a loan or whatever. There are many vehicles that have different terminologies in the banking. It's normally roughly always the same. The fine print is very different though, so be careful. But governments borrow money to pay for the infrastructure, and then there was the idea, shall we still do this? This is dangerous. Why is it dangerous? What do you think? Why is it dangerous? Please come in. So if we build something for the people, for our infrastructure, why would it be a problem? It will be there for us to use. Some like travel extra to see it. So for example, when I studied civil engineering, I remember the Öresund Bridge was opened between Copenhagen and Malmö. And I was studying in Berlin, so my friend and I, we jumped in the car on Friday, kind of after university, and drove there all the way without really a stop or considering the beautiful cultural diversity of Copenhagen or the cities on the way. So drove straight up to the bridge, had a look at it, looked at the bridge bearings, and we're like, oh, what a good investment, what a good investment. Sit in the car, drove back and forward 3 times, yeah, and then drove back to Berlin. So sometimes, it can be so much appreciated that it's actually like a highlight. Yeah. Okay, that was an intense example, but so you get it. Yeah. So it's there. Well, what would be the problem with infrastructure? Why do you think that is a problem? Why would we not pay for it as a public, as a taxpayer?
I'm not too good on economics. Something to do with the interest rates or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, so interest rates, yeah, so it can generate more costs than we can actually repay, especially if we have balanced a little bit high, if we have indebted ourselves too much, so the tax that we actually generate is not high enough. And there's another association with it. It's normally as well running costs may actually have its impact too. So it's often calculated against use as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's also make a good profile for the government or organization.
Yeah, so this is another benefit actually why you would do it. Yeah, so if you have things like that, like a wonderful bridge, or you invest in infrastructure, it creates that value and has a very good creates as well kind of this atmosphere where you may want to live in, yeah, because you like the infrastructure or want to drive over the bridge like that. But okay, the opposite of traditional procurement and raising the money and doing it yourself is actually kind of the PPP. There's a fine spectrum, and we'll look into that in a second. So a private company raises the money for the investment and then recoups it by operating the asset over a long period. Now we have the two. But what is a good example for that? What connects London to Paris? No, excitement. Yeah, this is a train, you're spot on, and so it goes through the tunnel. Yeah, so the tunnel is basically this project, and they charge basically the Eurostar company, that is a train company, a fee for using the tunnel. Yeah. And you too, yeah. If you move like big if you want to buy like something in large quantities via train, you too can pay the guys from the tunnel to get your train with the coaches through there. Yeah? This is absolutely legitimate. Yeah? So then you would have the interface with them. Yeah? All I'm saying. So and they are operating this, yeah, and they had a lot of trouble, and there's a long story actually to it. But the key is the money was actually put forward to a large degree from this private company, but in the end the taxpayer had to jump in actually because the costs increased quite substantially. But still, that was the idea. And it means as well that a political party, so if you are in a political party at the moment, you have normally durations of 5 years. So any long-term project, yeah, you have normally a little bit a conservative, no, wait, this is misleading. You may not be too favorable of a project, that kind of has that remit of being a bridge that you can actually drive over 10 years later. It may be after your legislation period. So there are as well dynamics like that kind of favors things like that. Yeah, so the liability is out of the hand of the local or national government. Now, the PPP was really kind of a liberalization movement in the way services are produced and delivered in the public. So this is actually quite interesting. So I should go a step back. This is actually an old hat. So kind of kings and so in the past when we largely lived tribally organized by a ruler or something like that, yeah, then that was actually the way you would do it. And we still have anybody here from Russia? Okay, I pick on a country where we don't have too much association. Actually, we have distance learners that are from Russia. Okay, so be with me anyway. So you had like kind of a ruler, and they would say like, I've seen in the neighbor country they're all right now on these roads. I don't know what it's about. Before we had just a path where people would walk, and you had your path, yeah, and that was quite good, but now they have roads, so we want roads too. So you would get like a powerful friend of yours, which would be maybe a baron or a lord already, a very wealthy person, and you would say, hey, you build me roads, and I allow you to take tax on the roads, and you just give half of the tax to me because I allow you to do this. So this would be normally the game. So you still have that in places, for example, like the controversial, but Sochi, for example, why did Russia not have high tax bills? Because this was built basically by oligarchs that kind of had a lot of money, so they funded the infrastructure and they run it now. So they are actually doing this. So for Putin, they built like 18 billion Winter Olympics, basically based out of their own pocket, and they have the rights to kind of make use of that land. Yeah? So hence they try to build at the moment kind of a Dubai, Singapore idea, financial haven, where if you are wealthy, you can do your investment too, and then you have wonderful infrastructure. So this is actually an old idea, but that is the extreme, yeah? and we still have that in some countries. Yeah? So now, nonetheless, we came actually back from that. So kind of 1950, we kind of swung back to that. So here, the idea of PPP is you still have the control in the public. Yeah, so you don't just privatize it completely, what I just explained with Putin's case, for example, Russia and Sochi. Ownership rights and control over the nature and pricing and public services remains basically with the public sector. So this is kind of the leverage why PPP is quite interesting. It offers as well the ability to develop new infrastructure services despite short-term fiscal constraints. Yeah, and that is again like the political periods, for example, or you get a budget for spending in 1 year. So how can you manage a long-term project with that if you don't have it? So those are the bonuses, as you can see in my face, the green arrow, yeah. And then you had as well offers value for money through efficiencies in procurement and construction and operation. Now the question mark indicates this is not necessarily granted. Empiry shows, or analysis of cases, that can go well, but it can as well fall short on this. So it costs a lot more and doesn't generate the value you were after in the first place. So it can go either way on that one. And improved service quality and innovations through use of private sector expertise and performance initiatives Well, again, especially I had that question recently. Alex Hope, he used to work as well in North Tyneside Council, and we had this debate in the local rowing club in Tynemouth. They do interesting parties there. There was a discussion that in the past they had all the skills actually in the council, and the people they're employing now, they really are challenged with even like just keeping an eye on the technical side of things. So they are completely out of their comfort zone with this, because they have been so used to work with consultants and outsourcing. So the technical know-how is then gone, and they rely now on private kind of supplements. So there's a side to both. And this is not so much a national thing. You will see that differs from region to region based on how they may have operated this. Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's a critical question mark, really. Yeah. So okay. Now, key characteristics of a PPP is kind of here the life cycle. I've explained it as well. So first of all, identification of common interest. And you will see in many PPPs that the public sector is actually inviting the private sector to kind of put a bid forward. There's often a lot of paperwork, well, I say paperwork, a lot of planning and careful organization and agreements required. And I've broken it down here as well. Negotiation of partnership arrangements. So normally it's about funding, legal frame, that you have a clear starting point, and then organizational design as well. Yeah? And then when it comes to the implementation, I'll show you later on as well the project life cycle of normal PPPs. You have then the implementation, evaluation, and then it may run on, or you have the termination of the project. Sometimes you have reuse. So you alter the use and keep them contracted if they're good. So in hospitals we do that a lot. There are a few companies that have really figured out how to do this, and they are now preferred in preferred arrangements. Yeah? Now with the types, we have kind of the extremes as fully public sector, building awareness. So you even have the skills. You may even have your own companies that do it. Yeah, what is such an example? Actually, rail service, for example, in Germany. Now the DB Logistics that runs here the Nexus, fully public. Yeah, so even the guys the technicians would be civil servants in Germany. So this has just changed very recently. So this meant they could even build their own trains. Which was interesting because Siemens and ThyssenKrupp were busy selling the same services overseas as a competitive business, but couldn't sell them in Germany, ironically. Yeah? Or Maglev, you may, we were back at our Shanghai airport transport. If you get to Shanghai, take the Maglev. It's amazing. Yeah? It's a magnet train. You basically hover. It's amazing. It's beautiful technology. Yeah, but came as well out of Deutsche Bahn. So they kind of invented it and pushed for that. So here you have the fully public sector on one side, and then it goes along passive private investment, government bonds. So you can do this. Yeah? You buy national bonds, you invest kind of automatically as a shareholder in the state. It's normally associated with very safe investment. Yeah? If you have too much money, the recommendation is 6% just in case. It's true, but forget about it. It's not that important. So traditional public contracting design. Yeah.
I've got a stupid question. It seems stupid anyway. On the bonds, government bonds, are these just general government bonds? Are these government bonds attached to a particular project?
So you can do both. Yeah? For example, UK does it as well, project specific. They offer it as an investment package. Yeah? So you can balance. So for example, something like the what do they call it now? H2.
Oh, the high-speed train.
Yeah. T. Yeah, that's one. Yeah. You can actually buy bonds and options for this, and the options are actually very high priced, and I think it's a profit of 15%. Yeah. So if they don't run over, then you get a very high payoff. But traditionally, and London Olympics as well run extremely over, so they just paid out something like 1%. So be careful. But with the bonds, you would have the guarantee from the state, which is as well pretty high. It's something like 6%, but the money sits then with the bonds. Yeah? So in other words, you can't cash out on it in between. This is kind of the problem. Yeah? But it's a possibility. Yeah. But other countries, you just buy national bonds. So Norway, for example, doesn't break down. Had a lot of interesting stuff going, and there was a big push for that, and they said like, no, we are one nation, we hold together, we don't want to break it up. So interesting. Anyway, so this is the bond side. So here we are the public, and this is even you are maybe on the provider side, and as a government, so you can do it yourself. And then on the other extreme, you have fully private sector. So you basically contract it out. Then the government kind of just may not even do the bidding out. They may have a contractor that or consultant that bids out for them. And then you are just an enabler and regulator. So you may have still your questions. You want the cycle lane to be wide enough for Robert to cycle through. And, straight lines are quite complicated. So you should give me 1 meter to 1.5, so I don't hit cars. This is So then you're on this side, and that is then on that side of this angle. And when you bid it out, you kind of ask them to raise the investment until you pay them for the service. Does that make sense? So they have to buy the material themselves, and you pay them depending on your contract arrangement. If you do it sensitively, you pay as they actually create asset value. Sometimes you pay afterwards. The public does that quite often. At the end of the delivery. This means you have to put up front everything. And so in the middle you have, of course, a joint venture with co-ownership, co-responsibility. And then interesting one is build, operate, and invest, or the turnkey delivery. So those are quite interesting as well. You have that largely for infrastructure buildings, but you have that as well for social services more and more. That they are kind of agreeing to kind of build the service to implement it wherever they were hoping for it. So this comes along with training and other services, which is quite interesting. A very big thing at the moment. So key issues to summarize: degree of control desired by government, ability of public-private sector to deliver the desired services, and legal frameworks as well, regulatory oversight, and sometimes it's as well unconstitutional. So some services are actually perceived as royalty to the state, or there's where other terminologies. Availability of finance from public and private sources, that's another big one that kind of comes into this, and risk taking, vice versa. Oh, and here's the model enlarger. Now with this, we can then look, of course, at different models. So what are the models, and how do they actually differentiate? Now, if you look at them, they're very simplified. You have a time notion. You can go by a short term, where you go on a one-to-one basis, where you contract actually an actual project out. So this is a project we're going to do. Here is the supply chain. Come in and do your part, and you run on that, or you do it actually kind of a partnership agreement where you look of working together over more projects. So those are the options. Here, the models mostly vary by ownership of capital assets. So you can have, for example, you may be familiar with leases. So a council can give you actually kind of really the ownership for running the service for a particular time. And on the contrary, you build it for the council, but the full ownership is with the council. So those are a few ideas here in capital ownership. Then responsibility for investment. So who has to come up with the money up front? Is the company doing it themselves? And you see, especially in bigger PPPs, a lot of companies have actually generated that capacities. So if you look, for example, at Bafabiti, a construction contractor in the UK, they have their own banking segment. I think they're just being bought over, isn't it? So that was maybe, but again, they have the financial service too, that they can kind of give the government a loan for the projects that they're working on, or themselves. With banking, you can do that. I mean, you still have to comply to your assessment, but that's it. Then you have as well the assumption of risks. So here you can give optimally the ownership with the expert. Often you kind of do a trade-off that the financial constraints are carried with the public side, whilst the technical constraints are carried with the private. This is just due to negotiation, but in reality, either side goes. Yeah, so it's really about giving the risk to the most capable member. That makes a lot of sense, but when you come to the negotiations, you will see that that may not be desirable from all parties. And of course, as well, duration of contract. I kind of highlighted that already. If you want to break it down, there are 5 broad categories for participation. So that is supply and management contract, then a turnkey project. This is kind of where it's all done, where you just walk in, you turn the key, like a car. Yeah, so you buy a car and we should differentiate here. Like a new car that can drive. Yeah, you kind of go, you put your key in, and with a little bit luck, when you turn the key, it's actually starting and you can go. That doesn't make sense. Whereas houses we buy, if you take the analogy, for example, without the engine and without the seats. Yeah, you can buy cars that way too. I'm just saying it's not very common. Yeah, so anyway, turnkey projects. Yeah, then so bus stops, for example, this is where you want it finished. You don't want necessarily this without seats or the glazing. Yeah. Then another one are leases. What does leasing mean? Actually, we should clarify as well what that means. What is a lease? Simplified.
It's where you use an asset but you don't own it and you pay a certain amount of money each month to use it, or whatever.
Yeah, so leases come in all, it's a contractual time that you get an asset for that you can then use for an agreed use. Yeah. And then we have concessions. What is a concession?
Discount.
Yeah?
Like form of a discount.
Form of a
Discount.
Discount, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can be, you're spot on. So you can be, for example, not having to pay tax on a particular service that you're doing. Yeah? Or you get particular concessions can go in all directions. It can be as well concession of land that you can use as well. Yeah, so there are different rubrics that you can use. Yeah? Olympics don't pay tax, for example, in a certain way. So they're after concessions from the nation where they're hosting it. That becomes a tax-free zone for the Olympics, which is fascinating. Yeah, but so this could be something. Yeah, and it's as well negotiable. Yeah, so you too, as a private partner, you can go to the public sector and say, hey, I want free or whatever license you may need or concession you may need. Then as well, another one then is actually private ownership of assets. So this is as well possible. And in the UK, this is particularly interesting because we have still land ownership. No, I don't get the terminology right. But the land is still owned by the church, isn't it? So every 100 years we will have to pay like a penny amount to keep owning the land. If you miss out on that, your land is gone. Yeah. So it gets yeah. I mean it's a traditional thing. But all I'm saying, there is even like agreements that go a little bit in a different direction. Yeah.
Sorry, go on. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Just as like an example, just to wrap my head around it.
Mm-hmm.
So if a local council was to choose a contractor to build a school or a hospital or something, would that be classed as a type of partnership? Or
Yeah, I mean it could be. Yeah, so this would be maybe the simplest form. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, they just pick it and kind of go for the contract.
Yeah. No, but it's just that's what I did before. I was involved in that, and I just need to wrap my head around it just so I can.
Yeah, but it's a
As an
very good
example,
example. Yeah.
yeah.
And you could then look at the details of your school arrangement. Yeah. Did you build a lot of schools, or was it a one-off?
It was just it was work experience with Faithful and Gold, and they were like the project. They hired them as like the consultancy project managers, and it was Northumberland Council, and it was Esh Group, the construction and affordable housing and stuff.
So you did probably the bidding out then for the council, is that correct? And looked after it as a client?
Well, the people that I worked for, yeah. they did.
So this means that the council, exactly what we discussed, so kind of took consultancy to actually kind of bid it out and get a proper deal, because they didn't want to have the risk of bidding it out themselves.
Yeah,
So-
it was merely to see who would be the lowest price.
Mhm.
That was-
Okay, we come to that actually in a second, on what criteria you may want that. Because the value for money that I kind of emphasized earlier on, we have to have a look at that in detail, because in the public sector we may understand something different on that, other than lowest price.
Okay.
But thank you, this is good.
I was just curious what BOT meant, complex bot form.
Oh, what does it stand for?
Yeah, what does it stand for?
Well, I take speculation. It's actually it's on the next slide, I think, so I cannot
Right,
speak
okay.
it. But what is it?
I don't know, I'm just asking.
So it's buy, operate, transfer.
Right.
Yeah. Is that correct? Actually, you will see if I got the T right on the next one. This could be as well something else, something with T. Oh, okay, it's one more. Yeah. Now we have to keep that in the back of our mind. Yeah, okay. But the idea here is management contracts are basically a very important part of public enterprises by the private sector. And Alex used to work on a few, and when I saw the contract, I literally agreed everything, which is quite fascinating. Because with turnkey, you can do it the other way around. You kind of want a final product, and you leave all the contract details basically to the consultant to deal with a main contractor that comes in to build it. Then maybe, So there are different ways of doing it, but the benefit or the management contracts allow private sector skills to be brought into service design and delivery, operational control, labor management, and equipment procurement. So a little bit what you seem to have covered there. Then public sector retains ownership of facilities and equipment, and the private sector is provided specified responsibilities concerning a service and is generally not asked to assume commercial risk. So often, so for example, your consultant job, you probably have a decent database of evaluating risk for particular jobs like that. So you may have a portfolio of different schools that you have built. You can look into it, what went wrong in the past, whilst councils may not have this detail. Does that make sense? Okay. Private contractors as well paid a fee to manage and operate services, normally performance-based. This is quite ambiguous often, and that is where potential gains and losses and trust may be broken. The contract period is short, typically 2 to 5 years. There are several varieties under the management contract, including a supply and or service contract, maintenance and management, and operational management. And those are the most common one if you want. Now, where are we? Okay. Then we have the turnkey design. I described that already. So the idea really being you transfer all the risk. You tell them what you want to use the building for. You may have even influences on the design, and you take a main contractor to do it all. So you walk basically in, it's furnished, it's what you want, and if they are good main contractors, they consult with you through the process to make sure that it fits as well your expectations. Very common, very risk averse. So if anything goes wrong, the main contractor has a whole package deal basically. They are accountable for the whole sum. If you're contracting out individually as a council, then each subcontractor by definition is only accountable for the building sum. So this was in the other seminar group. So if you have like a crane driver that knocks over the 2 already built buildings, this is they are just liable for their contract amount. And there may be an insurance that goes in at that point, but in other words, they wouldn't be actually accountable for the whole sum, so you are carrying that risk. So this is why turnkey is very prominent. It's main contractors all the risk. So then the affirmage lease, well, we had that already. I skipped through it. You can have a look at that in detail. The the concessions. Wait a minute. Here is my bot. So wait a minute. I have defined it somewhere. Yes. Where is my bot gone? It's again just bot. No. Build, operate, and
The distance line is must
yeah. I think it's transfer, but I don't know what the T is. This is sorry. I have to look that actually up. I think it's transfer. Wait a minute, have I got? I have to find it somewhere. I'm pretty sure about this. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I just saw
Oh.
it.
Yeah.
The second.
Here and transfer. Oh, just to confuse, I have rehabilitate in between as well. But yeah, this is. Yeah. But you get the idea, I hope. Yeah. So, but thank you. It was transfer. I was right. And then private ownership again, built on own operate type of arrangement. So this is boo. Yeah. So, this is not how you say BOO. I think. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, but you get the idea. And within this, you have as well the private financial initiatives, which were very popular in the UK, and there are still buildings run this way. Yeah? So they came often with 15-year contracts, and they still operate. Yeah? This is cool stuff. You can go and ask them how it's going. In some, it's really working out. In others, oh my gosh, it's yeah, they kind of have a lot of claims, and the public sector feels that they are being kind of taken out for any penny they can, and that is probably true as well. But yeah, so that is as well a possibility. And then yeah, there are other hybrids, but we have a closer look at that as well later. Now, yeah, 10 minutes, plenty of time. Okay, so then we have as well the defining aspects. So first of all, defining principles. So the principles that really underline the public-private partnership is normally value for money. Now this is again, yeah, where from a consultancy point, this is like you look basically on your return on your investment, yeah, and then after tax, and also you know what you're kind of aspiring to live in a lifestyle, you want to have a certain income. Now this is the quantitative side to a huge degree, but in the public sector we try to generate as well a public good. Now this is the intention, normally. Yeah. Depending on what country you're in, but this is normally the idea. No, this is actually in all countries, I think. So there's a qualitative side to it, which is often the interface of where the contracts come in. Yeah? And we do know that better quantified contracts are normally a terrible implier on the qualitative side as well. So because stuff moves on, but we come to that later. We will have a look, I think, next week at a contract, and I will show you a few examples where it can go wrong, even though it was very well done. Then another one is risk allocation appropriate, yeah, and this is as well very wide spectrum. So it should be really which party is best placed, not whoever is the most powerful negotiator in the round of setting up the contracts. Yeah, but again, this does happen, and again, here is like the kind of playground that is often used. Then performance standards, output focused, a payment on delivery. So this is again where I kind of mentioned that that means often for the companies that if you're competing in it, you have to invest yourself in it. Now there are a few countries that have tried to avoid this. In Germany, they developed a legal frame that you kind of pay by phases. So if they have like kind of a bidding proposal and it has all the criteria, you get paid out a certain percentage as though you would have won. Yeah, but it means that everybody kind of loses this amount kind of from the public budget that was there before. Yeah? So there was this contra agreement. But in Germany, this has really enhanced that even medium or small to medium-sized enterprises come together and give it a go, because you get already rewarded for kind of your investment of pricing everything and working out these projects. Yeah? So it's quite interesting. But largely output focused, which means you have to have a big company and a lot of resources to like quickly being able to put a bidding together over 3 years and not get any income on that. Yeah? And you may not even get that bid. You get the idea. And this is not like mega project. Something like the Olympics is a workload of probably 4 years. But I mean, the companies that Bitvolt basically do it the other way around. They just get more people to basically work on it. So it's quite intense work-wise. Then you have as well the maintained value of public assets over the whole life. Now this is basically where PFIs have got a really bad reputation for. Normally they kind of are set for the contract duration. You run it for 15 years, and kind of on the 15 years and first day, it's no, it's not that bad. But that's basically you pick purpose-built designs, and many public-based assets are built for kind of 30 years, but in reality the lifespan are 110 years. So especially if you go into stuff like waterways, highways, bridges, you will see that they last a lot longer than what's written on the initial time frame. Yeah. And then you have as well the last one, the off-balance sheet. What does that mean? Does it off the balance sheet?
Balance sheet is a record of your cash and your assets.
Right.
So off balance sheet, I have no idea what it means. So I don't know actually.
So what could that be?
Public opinion, value for money, qualitative aspects of things. I don't know.
Yeah, it's as well promises to work in the future together. So you can get like other commitments too. Yeah. So it's additional benefits that you get as a company working with the public sector and vice versa. So
would reputation come into that?
Yeah, so normally it's prestige for companies. It's prestige projects. Yeah, so often, well, I just told you about the bridge. Yeah, and as a young engineer, how passionate I was about it. So I knew which company this is. For me, this was like, oh, they're amazing. They worked on this project, and for the public sector, it's like maybe repair deals. So you have liabilities, and they may train in addition as well your team to keep the bridge in shape, things like that. Nowadays we have that all contractual because there's very little done off balance sheets, but there are basically larger benefits from the partnership that come along with that. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. I think I've broken it down as well on the coming. Oh no, I haven't. Okay, but I think in the summary I have given examples as well for that. So it's actually very, very difficult to kind of look at PPP if you don't like kind of consider the governance itself. So if you look at PPPs, governance means a focus on process, the institutions of government and the processes through which they interact with society. And this is so to say that they are accountable to their people. But the people are as well the companies, so there's a certain remit of negotiation. With this, there's a recognition of interdependence of organization and tries to meet the requirements of the world society. So sometimes there's a certain threshold, and that expresses itself in different forms. So not only is this, but the public sector as a whole implication, governance implies the involvement and endeavor of all players. So in other words, if you have a lot of companies around the table, you will have a stronghold there. So they will of course try to make as well the most out of their interests. Now, general governance principles, especially in PPPs, relates to the selection and conduct of the senior officers and their relationship with the stakeholders. So this is, to speak, representatives that are at the decision-making level and kind of their informants, what we expect from them. So you may know from politics that you can use information selectively and create an alternative opinion. This is how you can polarize something, and then you can pull in either direction. Now, here it's kind of senior officers and their relationships with the stakeholders. So keeping them in a public project accountable to the stakeholders that represent the people with interest. It's normally the people representing organizations that kind of reflect the interest of the society or grouping. In some places we have formal structures. In other places it's the village elderly or family representative. You get all kinds in project management. Be aware of that. Consult them. They are the stakeholders. If you don't do so, then you may have, in Germany, most likely a demonstration on the road, with a lot of strange pictures on top. In France, it's a little bit more, it's more intense. They seem to put a lot of stuff on fire. I don't know why, but there's something going on. Something that's very powerful, But so you have basically then you see the impact when your project has started. I mean, it's simplified, But if you consult stakeholders, you can build a relationship and integrate them. Now, the importance lies in the power given to the senior officers and the need for it to be used responsibly. So, So it excludes as well certain unethical conduct that may just look after your private interest. If you represent, you are as well held accountable in that role, and you cannot run off with. I should be careful there, but you cannot overemphasize your private interest over the kind of common good that you are representing. So a check on responsible conduct is the information related to the stakeholders. Private sector appoint non-executive directors who have no other commercial connection with the company, but still normally they come from the company. So sometimes as well from universities. So you have advisors, or you take other experts into the committee to kind of do this role.
Are they paid or?
Yeah, so this is slightly contextual. In very big PPPs, they are often paid. So this is that they are not basically subject to bribery. So you basically try to give them a decent pay, that they're not tempted by the £10,000 offer of the subcontractor. Actually, that was a random amount, but it's basically proportionate. And in reality, you try to get it actually impartial, but this is very difficult to achieve. Just based, one decision can be worth 5 million depending on where it goes. Then it's a very bad idea to have just people there that come there for best. Well, it's normally recommended as well from the parties around the table. So you have already people that basically represent it. And if you then don't pay them, then this is a bad idea. Quite frankly, because they still spend the time. It takes a lot of time to work through that. Just read through the documentation. It is as well a matter of principles of contract rather than a simple rule. And actually, legally, that is not necessarily the case in all countries. That's another one. The main aim is as well to ensure the WEG generated. The value, sorry, not the WEG. The main aim is to ensure the value generated by the asset is distributed equitably amongst the stakeholders. So it goes back to kind of the society or who you aim as the stakeholders. Now, again, those are principles, not laws. This is as well kind of the basic conduct that you should strive towards. And in certain settings, you will see this is very difficult to achieve. Especially if you have very powerful stakeholders that maybe overemphasize their position. I didn't get my warning sign. Okay, we just break at this point, and I have 5 more minutes. Make sure you have a look at the case study. Today we have 2 case studies, kind of looking at the private public sector example. And the case studies are not that long, so it's a scenario of half a page, then you have objectives of the actual case study, and then the lesson learned afterwards as well. So that kind of books it up to 7 pages, but you can see the brief is there too. Okay, superb. Thank you very much. I see you later. Now, okay, we are back, and I hope it works. It may not. We were at the critical success factors, you may remember. So we just talked about the governance. You remember, the principles by which we should organize a wonderful setting. Like basically have key stakeholders around the table to make an informed decision representing the values you are after in those projects and the partnerships, really. Now, critical success factors, this is where we kind of stopped. Each of the participants is a principal and can bargain in its own behalf on its own behalf. Yeah? The interest that they represent, very important. Involves an enduring relationship among the actors with some continuing interactions. These are based on trustful negotiation and dialogue. Yeah, so again, the importance is here kind of trusted and what do you call it? Same eye height? No. Is that in English an analogy that you use? This makes only sense in my German mind at the moment, but does it make sense? Eye to eye kind of negotiation. Yeah. Each actor must be able to bring something good to the relationship. Yeah, this can be of any kind. This can be as well negotiation power, convincing power, political power, you name it. Yeah? All actors have shared responsibility for the outcomes of their activities. So this is as well very important to recognize. Now the project life cycle of PPPs is pretty similar to ours. It's just that there are different sub-stages. I won't go into details, but have a look at those. Yeah, because it's the same life cycle more or less. The preliminary stage is recognizing a need. Yeah, so you kind of pre-propose a need for a new project. This is normally what we don't consider our basic pre-stage to a project. Normally we start with project conception in our normal project life cycle. Then we kind of come to a project identification, and here we kind of look for suitability assessment. We may look as well for partners that we want to invite to kind of join us on that endeavor. Then there's a project appraisal. Here is as well the selection of the PPP type. So how do we want to do this? Do we want to run it more with a public sector setting, or do we want to more privatize? Is there maybe a hybrid that we're after? And that is a evaluation, and here you define often as well the structure and kind of propose your terms and condition and negotiate those. So this is quite important. And then you have kind of the design agreement. This is often where you set already the stages, and this is as well where the monitoring starts. So you go from the evaluation to the monitoring. Here you have PPP design, procurement process selection, agreement of national authorities and funders as well, so that you have basically the vehicle how you want to do it. Yeah? And then the procurement, so here again, tender evaluation, negotiation, contracting. If you do it in a house, there may not be that. Yeah? Then implementation, construction, operation, monitoring, contract management, and evaluation afterwards. So this is kind of like a standard process, and this didn't work. With this, you arrive as well at a certain kind of duality or scale. So on one side you have the profitability, which are we in the public sector after profitability? Are we after in the public sector, if we do something for the people, do you want to be profitable? So, I had already nodding, and then some, yeah? No?
Value for money.
Value for money. Yeah, so profitability may be private interest. Having said so, a lot of public sectors do look as well after the spending. So if they have more return for it, then they can reinvest it. Yeah, exactly. So self-sustaining operations, there's still an aspect of that. But normally profitability is kind of associated with shareholder value perspectives and value management principles. So this means you kind of value each aspect against kind of what you're setting out to create the value. Now on the responsibility side, this is normally where the public sector has a greater need, and you see here the overlap value management principles versus stakeholder value perspectives, where you want to have the value created for your stakeholder that you are after. Yeah? And again, the harder side is the service delivery, which overlaps here. Yeah, the shareholder value perspectives, this is what you're paying for. Yeah, does that make sense? But they overlap. So there's responsibility and profitability on either side. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah. And my wonderful symbolism underneath. In between it didn't go that way, but in the end it paid off. Yeah? And here community. Okay, I have a few like kind of pointers to get us thinking for our case study. So benefits, speedy, efficient, and cost-effective delivery of projects. Actually, I don't know many PPPs where this is true. But okay, never mind. This is the literature. Value for money for taxpayer through optimal risk transfer and risk management. Yeah, so there's a lot actually in this. Then efficiencies from integrating design, construction of public infrastructure with financing, operation, maintenance, and even upgrading sometimes. Yeah, so you notice what you have built. There's actually new stuff in a private incentive. If there's a call from customers and you want to create value for your local people, yeah, or your stakeholders, then you can actually throw the extra fund in, and private companies will have an interest to probably implement that. Yeah, so this is again the service that they're providing, especially if you have something like that in the clauses, and they are there to do it. Then creation of added values through synergies between public authorities and private sector companies, and innovation and diversity and provision of public services. Last but not least, competition and greater construction capacity. But we come to our case studies in a second, to the story of Mulheim. I have a very personal insight to this. I can give you more insight to that in a second. And then, of course, effective utilization of state assets. Concerned that it's already assets, but okay, state goods to the benefit of all users of the public services. Yeah. Now, however, as I already pointed out, PPP can present many advantages. However, the schemes are complex too. So design, implementation, and manage. If you have something like a PPP project, it's normally mega projects, kind of straight away. Yeah. So it means this is slightly rude what I'm saying now, but it's a little bit lazy from the public sector. They could have broken it down in many normal-sized projects and managed it appropriately. Now, this is as well an option. But again, this is controversial. But by no means the only preferred option should only be considered if it can be demonstrated that PPP is the way forward. Yeah? So can achieve additional value. There is an effective implementation structure if all objectives, all parties can be met. Yeah? So it's as well a quick way of dealing with a big chunk of money that you have received, to basically not having the responsibility of breaking it down sensibly to your structures. Yeah, so if it's managed by the public sector, you will see that the Swiss are very big in this. They break it down all one by one. So even the bus stop, that is part of kind of the whole road that it gets made, this gets contracted out individually. So bus stop, then extra post the bench. You can bid as well for the bench only. Yeah? So it's up to you. So everybody can basically kind of bid for it. Yeah? So you have not just the big companies, but as well small enterprises that have specialized on an aspect are basically in it. Now there are disadvantages as well. Much more complicated than conventional procurement contracts. Very large tendering and contracting costs, because basically you give it all out, and respectively the main contractor may then again subcontract it and so forth. Private and public sectors often have different goals and organizational philosophies and cultures. Yeah? The cost of contract renegotiations are often high, and the difficulties of ensuring good performance, especially with respect to soft performance dimensions. What are soft performance dimensions?
Public opinion.
Yes.
Could be soft.
Yeah. So what is a good example? Do you have an example in mind?
I mean, public sector there is to serve the public, and if they have a bad perception of a development, or they don't think it's a very sustainable development or whatever it is, which is outside the normal performance criteria, subcontracted, and it's a soft performance dimension, I guess.
Yeah. This was a very good description, I have to say. Soft performance dimensions can be something like making a road like just walk pedestrianized, so that you can only kind of walk over it. You may have seen this here in the city center. The council actually went for that quite a bit. The benefit for you as a student is you can walk around here without being hit by cars. Yeah. And the not so nice thing is it's actually quite difficult to find a parking spot here. Is anybody driving here? Yeah. So where do you park? Is it easy?
Just opposite.
Opposite.
Yeah, you come off the roundabout, and you actually come round. So it's
also in the States, yeah.
Yeah, it's expensive, man.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the point. You
It's
cannot.
expensive.
I tried 1 hour, but just not parking, just take around.
Yeah, you only, there's like limited times. I normally park in Dean Street and just walk up. like car, multi-story. It's cheaper and you can pay by phone.
Okay, you see the issues, yeah? That was a brilliant example, yeah? So whilst it was perceived a good idea, it brings a lot of constraints for people that come from further away. It's a bit more difficult. Then we have as well difficult for the government not to intervene if the provider threatens to go bankrupt. We may remember from, you remember the water example from the pubs, South Africa? The water partnership? So in the one case, the company was like, no, not profitable anymore. We actually turn the tap off of the water. Good luck, friends. You get every 3 hours, we open it, and you better use the shower quickly. Yeah, whilst in the public sector, it was, no, I'm playing it as advocate, so don't take it too serious. But in the public sector, they were like, okay, just let it run anyway, we compensate you. Yeah? So there's this public responsibility. Whereas if you're in a business and you run out, and you don't have a public provider, you have to make sure that you survive as a business. If you leave it open, you go bankrupt anyway. It's actually worse. Then the banks come after you, and then whoever your creditors are. This don't necessarily have to be the banks. Yeah? There are alternatives as well, but it means you are basically in trouble. Now, what is the disadvantage? And this is kind of just empirical. This is quite shocking. So if you look at payments under PFI contracts, well, to be fair, this is kind of when they started. So initially they were actually quite cheap, but over time they generate like a certain payments under PFI contracts by $1 billion per year. So that is basically what the public sector pays the industry at the moment for the PFIs. But you can see it's a gradual increase, and it's over the lifespan. So here you are kind of over the lifespan, and if you want to run on, it's really, really expensive.
Is this partly to do because the public sector has almost allowed its own core competencies to do these things to disappear, so they have no choice?
It's a lot worse.
Right.
The PFI kind of states those buildings were built for 15 years, so now they can basically replace the building gradually at their own terms and conditions because they are still running it. So the PFIs were really public finance, private finance initiatives. So the private companies kind of brought up the money to run it for them, and costs were kind of complemented by the state. Now they got a time set, so a lot of the PFIs are 15 years. There are a few buildings or infrastructure projects that were longer, for 25 years. There was short durations, and basically what has happened, we have hit the 15 years. They haven't demolished them or quitted the service and did a new one, but they were like, hey, can we run it on? And this is very costly at the moment. Yeah. And we are not really equipped, or Pollock and Price pointed actually out, we know already that we cannot really replace it just like that, because we have actually a housing shortage as well. So you can go into construction, yeah, then you are you're in a good place to be. This is something that is a hot topic at the moment. Yeah.
Excuse me. What about the quality? For example, if I'm private, I open just for benefit. I don't care what is the public will be used about. Means I focus about how much I get it.
Well, you charge it. Yeah. So with this, if the clients complain, for example, in a hospital, the beds are not soft enough, and you make an inquiry and figure out hospital beds are not soft enough, then they ask you as a provider to buy newer, softer beds, then you bid it out. Yeah, and you take your profit margin that you need, yeah, to bid it out. So you price it accordingly. Yeah. They will probably go for due diligence and try to price it themselves and see, but you have a profit margin agreed in those contracts.
Where's PFI again?
This is private financing incentive initiative.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So this was one of the last options that we kind of had. If we can't raise the money, but we still want to do a project, we can lean on the private sector completely to raise the money as well. And this is why many contractors have as well their own bank, because banking is as well a profitable business. So does that make sense?
But still, I have the one that have quite about the which country has oil, for example,
Mhm.
that invite some company to coming for investment.
Mhm.
That company will provide it, everything, the facilities means infrastructure, built infrastructure. And
Yeah, this is what I mentioned. So this was the example that I.
Definitely. Maybe, for example, if the contract between the company and government around for 40 years or 50 years like that.
Mhm.
Okay, yes, as I am private company, I care about benefit and how much I get it from the government.
Do you negotiate it?
Yeah, I don't care about how long how long can the government or the public use of this infrastructure. For example, if complete the duration contract, as a company I leave to another area, who will protect that quality problem? Means it's coming after 40 years or 50 years.
So with the PPP, you would probably give that risk to the company that does it.
That one has a disadvantage of PPP.
Oh, yeah, but this is the negotiation. So if you go back in my in the overview of the, yeah, this will backfire in my timing again. But so it's even further. Okay, we are nearly there. There we are. Okay, so this is, for example, private ownership. Yeah, they build it for us. This is the same how Sochi was built. Yeah, so you invite private companies to build it for you, and you allow them to run it. But at the same time, those guys are not really there, so they're not interested. They build it, and if it runs itself, it's good. And if it doesn't run itself, then okay, they will invest only if they are kind of pushed by the government. And that is exactly the setting. So as well in Sochi, there are no contracts. That's just being kind of spoken. A lot of the contracts in Sochi are spoken. So there's no written evidence of this. And they are running it, and this was already, right? The Formula course was running there. Formula One, has anybody? Not really, I don't really follow it on that level. But there was a Formula One course. There were already hotel owners that have to basically raise the quality. So the region basically made them, if they want to keep the hotel and don't want to be disowned, discharged, then they have to bring it up to standard. This is how Russia was doing it. So I know that different countries do that very differently. And in the UK, this is all contractually kind of agreed. So this takes a very long time in the UK. Yeah, so different countries have maybe different settings there. This depends as well, yeah, depending on what example you're thinking. PPP can be very light, yeah, just a partnership literally, where you don't have, you probably have contracts, but very light contracts. Yeah, and then you have to kind of demand it. You know, you have to push politically for it. Yeah, if you're after the quality, or if you're after the profits, you can say the same. I can reach the quality, but this is my cost. Yeah, and then you cost it in. Yeah, either is fine. So, or either is contractually a possibility. But this is kind of the refinement of the different contracts that were here. Yeah. Oh, no. Terrible. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. Hi. We are nearly there again. Okay, we nearly have it. Okay, so PFI, quite costly. But this is only UK. I should be very careful. I haven't stated that properly. This is actually worse. That is just England. And that is a predictor from Her Majesty's Treasury on PFIs that were started then. Yeah, so this is just modeling up, looking at the cost and the requests basically from the private companies.
What was this graph?
2010, and this is a prediction. This is just based on the current claims.
I was going to say, it seems awfully wonderful, but it seems to, peter itself out.
No, yeah, okay, but this is how the costs are basically spread. Does that make sense? So they could build it at that time. It was very cheap for them because it was just a credit. The private sector paid for it. But in 2017, they will have paid 9 billion for it. Yeah. Per year. So this is kind of the rent you're paying. It's painful if you have to pay that out of your money.
At the end of the term, who owns the asset? Is that the private sector? So
now,
you have a PFI
some PFIs, yeah. So some PFIs, it's very technical. Land is still public, Yeah, but the whole hospital, for example, or the whole school is actually owned by the provider.
What did one of the trial ones collapse in the last few months?
Yeah, I think that was a school, right?
No, it was a hospital.
Hospital? Oh, I'm not aware of that.
Maybe I'm thinking. No, yeah, one of the hospitals was supposed to.
False. Yeah, there was one that was spectacular. Where, sorry, I shouldn't. Let me rephrase. So they had built a hospital, and the kind of emergency exit doors were American standard, whilst we, of course, use British standard ambulances, which are wider. So our beds didn't actually fit through the hospital door.
Yeah,
No, and this was kind of like realized after kind of trial opening. So this is really bad. Yeah. Is that what you were thinking of? Is that the maybe?
Yeah, but there's.
No, but there was one really
Right now
famous
it'd
one.
be purely lies and speculation, so I'm not really actually sure where
No,
we're spoken.
but read it up. For example, my colleague, it's not my personal colleague, but sorry, when I say colleagues, I often refer to academics. This is not necessarily meaning. It's for project managers as well in my wider mind. I think I have a boundary issue, but anyway, the key is that Ben Fluberg in Oxford has a database on these case studies, and I bet the hospital will be there. So if you are it's as well with documentation. It's really cool stuff. It's often, because it's public as well, it's often very well documented. Sometimes very polarized by journalists, but it can be entertaining as
That
well.
might be why I've read a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Now there's a cynical view as well. Yeah. Prejudice concept: public good, private bad. Yeah, and the public view is, so this is the public, this is private, and that is partnership. Yeah, so okay, so select committee, Brown's PFI, extremely inefficient. There were a lot of problems actually with it. The name bailout for Winston Hospital, I think this is the one. Yeah. This is the one with the doors.
Yeah.
So this is how I can remember
But
this.
it's not
It was
so much
no,
like
it's not
PFI,
hilarious.
It's failed out, but I think it's switched hands back into public ownership now.
Yeah, but it was PFI, so it was literally priced. And what was worse, the guys that kind of agreed it on the public side as well, they actually kind of had a dialogue. They had no experience in hospital building, so that was just a disaster. They didn't go for like a consultant or anything. And this is how the American doors came in and things like that. And then they had a big false system, and they needed two to run the whole system. So they kind of cut stuff off like that. It was just.
Well, the idea of Wisdom was that it was going to be a trial scheme, and then to prove how successful the construction was, they were then going to go forward with running some form of infrastructure when the hospital opened as well. Sort of like private initiatives working inside the hospital, like running not necessarily nursing, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There would be private things inside it. And so it was like a trial scheme of proving how well it was going to work, and then even the very first step was completely ridiculously badly managed.
Yeah, so sometimes you try too many new things and it can really backfire. So MP highlights Dudley, is that how you say it? Dudley?
Mm-hmm.
Dudley Hospital's huge PFI bill, 1.3 trillion time bomb. So this is knock-on effect and claims if things go wrong. This is like the potential of what it could cost in the end. Huge cost of PFI schemes, done staggering by Public Accounts Committee. PFI costing 13,000 per tax-paying household. Now this is not my tax household, but okay, never mind. No, I'm just joking. This is the average, of course. Now, notes from the field. This is kind of from my colleague, just to round it up. PPPs is not entirely good or bad. Contracts often weighted in favor of private sector. This is more development in the UK. We have the opposite in Iceland. If you want to see the opposite contrast, Iceland kind of closed the company down. So it's possible too. It's two extremes. Strong procurement teams are key. You need to know the details as well. Or, as in your school case, get a consultant that builds schools, that know the ins and outs. This is basically what it comes down to. Project management is a key. This is good. And relationship management is a key. So you have to find a communication level. If you're already kind of fighting from the first, kind of like, hey, this isn't working. Yes, it is. Then it will be terrible from there. I can tell you this. I would leave it with that. Okay, any questions so far? Half an hour. Okay, let me close this down quickly.